Welcome to Men of the Den. My name is Eric, I'm your Friday host, and today's topic is gaming. I am joined today by Aram Vartian.
Hello.
He is the Dungeon Master for Godsfall. Godsfall is a 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons actual play podcast, and you can learn all about it. You can see maps, forums, character profiles, and all kinds of cool stuff, and the podcast files at godsfall.com. Aram, welcome to Men of the Den.
Thank you.
So, briefly, tell us about the Godsfall Universe.
Okay, Godsfall, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, Godsfall is a traditional D&D universe. There's elves and dwarves and gods and magic. And we blew it all up in order to tell a story. So all the gods had a giant war, they're all dead, magic is dead, although it's resurfacing, as are the powers of the gods, which we have turned into divinities. So there is the standard D&D system, and then this other divinity system, which is basically just giving superpowers to people. So it's like superpowers and swords and shields and magic.
Great.
Yeah.
So who are the characters in Godsfall? Like, you don't have to go through all of them,
Sure.
but like, who do we see in the story?
The four main characters are the players, and in any D&D game, the players are the main stars. So
Right.
each of the people around my table has a single player. One of them is Doro, which is a halfling who is tied to the god of travel, which means that he can teleport, and recently he's figured out that he can touch roads and get information, but he's just kind of figuring that out.
Right.
Phryne is attached to the god of emotion and has the ability to read other people's emotions. She can't be lied to ever, and she can kind of project her thoughts into other people's minds. That's as far as she's gotten so far. She's also been able to link the other people. So she was able to link Doro's power through her emotion and allow him to teleport through walls into a place he couldn't see, just connecting to a person. And he couldn't do that without her. So
Right.
they're able to combine their abilities as well. Zion is connected to the god of force, which gives him the ability of telekinesis, which is going to be like to like ramp up to a Jean Grey kind of thing.
Right,
You know what I
right.
mean, right? And then the fourth player is Torvik, who is a dwarf who is connected to the god Ova, who is the goddess of beasts, and so he has a connection with animals. He doesn't fully understand yet, but he's able to communicate with them on certain levels and guide them.
So these characters are developing these like godlike abilities.
Yes.
Right. God-given, or are they becoming gods themselves?
Well, see, now they're definitely not God-given. So all the gods were killed.
Oh, right.
So and when they were killed, they were just wiped out. Now, there may be some direction with some of them, because what the gods would do is that they weren't omnipotent. So they would create avatars. They would create basically reflections of themselves with some of their information, some of their powers, and send them out. Some of the gods, like Tyr, would basically just create replicas of themselves. So when Doro saw that avatar, it was basically a fully fledged, god that he was
Right.
seeing before him. Other ones like Ova would create millions of small spirits and send them out with tiny bits of their power and tiny fragments of their intellect, and Oinkers is a version of that. Oinkers is a tiny little avatar, so she's not really a pig. She's kind of a spirit animal, and you'll see her change as the game changes as well.
Spirit, animal, pig, and chainmail.
Yes, basically. Yes, that's exactly what
I
it is.
love it.
Yeah.
So I have a question. So like, I listen to Cthulhu and Friends. People's lives are on the line nonstop.
All the time, absolutely.
Are your characters untouchable, or
No.
are they can totally bite the dust?
They can absolutely die, but because of what they are, death is different in my world for them. And I don't want to go into that until it actually happens.
Okay.
But no, they're not untouchable. However, death isn't the same thing it is for you and me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So you have 4 players.
Yes.
In your campaign. Are they committed to doing this show like for the long haul? Like,
It's interesting. Three of them are very committed. 3 of them were very ready for a big D&D game, and they're ready to dive right in. Kay is, I wouldn't say she's less committed. I would just say that she's less committed in general to geekery. So this is the first role-playing game she's ever played. She doesn't play in this world. She doesn't play a video game. She doesn't exist.
but she's killing it in this game.
But she's killing it.
Yeah, yeah.
She's playing I knew she would be good at it. I just didn't know how much I could get her in. But she's pretty in.
Yeah.
Now, if a player leaves or rotates out, I've got plans for that. I mean, Phryne would be one of the easiest. In fact, you're the queen, you're not leaving, F the rest of you, and then she's just going to be the queen.
Right.
It'd be very easy to turn her into an NPC. So I can do that with any of the characters.
Okay.
Yeah. Except for Doro. I can't lose Doro. He's my roommate, and I'd kill him.
Fair enough. Yeah. So the story, you're almost to the end of your first season of story arcs. Were there surprises that happened to you as the game master?
Yeah, I mean, I think it surprised me how I wrote a lot in the beginning and eased off a bit.
Yeah.
So I think it surprised me how willing they were to jump in and just play. How willing they were. Like, I think I threw a really serious world at them. Serious world. I mean, I threw a more...
It's very in-depth and realized.
Logically consistent.
Yes.
Would that be fair?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so when you throw something at your players like that, they'll respond in kind.
Right.
So I was able to get them to step up and really be ready for the game right away. But so I think so. I think they are, because I've got 7 seasons of stuff, so they better be.
They better be committed.
Yeah,
Right. So this is a gay show we're on right now.
Yes.
The Den. So, but Godsfall has definitely gay content in it.
Very high gay.
Zion and Para have a relationship.
Yep.
Cyrena and Phryne
have an arranged royal lesbian wedding, which has to be one of the first ones.
I could never have imagined. Now, did this just kind of bubble up naturally, or was this part of the general story?
Oh no, it definitely did. I mean, there was no plan. I mean, I think Zion, Michael, who plays Zion, who is also the editor of photography for the Washington Blade.
Right.
His character was always going to be gay. Like from the beginning, that was going to be part of his arc. And but Para just kind of happened, and then they naturally started to become buddies. And there were some times when Zion was like, "I grab Para's hand and we run this way," and this just seemed to kind of naturally build.
Yeah.
Now with Phryne, I knew exactly what I was going to do. Like, I was definitely going to have her get arranged marriage at some point, because you can't. It's like the gun; you can't show it and then not have it happen.
She's also high society.
Of course.
That's
exactly.
always her destiny.
Yeah, it was absolutely going to happen. But having her marry the queen, having her be a royal one, and giving her a lot more power than she thought she was going to have was good for the story. So I thought it'd be fun. Plus, I wanted to play in Ani for at least 3 or 4 games before we made it unplayable for a while.
So Godsfall is super popular right now. You're getting thousands of downloads.
Yeah, it's surprisingly popular. Frankly.
Did you expect this kind of response?
No, I didn't. I didn't know what to expect. I did the podcast because I had wanted to get the 5th edition system launched recent. And I wanted to get into it, so I started listening to podcasts to learn the rules, because I don't learn well from books. It's probably why I dropped out of high school. But I don't learn well from books, so I need to hear it or see it or play it. That was the 3 ways. And I didn't want to just jump into a game because I wanted to run my own. So I started listening to actual play podcasts. Thought that would be the best way. And there are great ones out there. There are really excellent ones that not only teach you the rules, but are funny and entertaining and engaging. But there weren't really ones. I mean, every time I heard them, I thought, this is great if they just edit a little more. Because I come from a world where you just chop it out. You cut, if it doesn't fit, you cut it out. If there's a pause, you cut it out. And so I just did it as kind of an editorial challenge first. Can I do this? And then when I figured out I could, I wanted to, because it's such a great record of the game.
Yeah.
And then it got popular, which I did not expect. So that's been the interesting part.
Well, Godsfall also has really high production quality to it, so I mean, the Battle Bards music is just amazing.
I know, they're amazing.
Very good.
They're 3 lunatics who have put a lot of investment and time and talent into what they do. They spent a lot of money on it, and it sounds amazing.
It does.
And it's so diverse. I have elves talking, then I've got a giant war monster, then I've got real high quality music and background audio, then there's spell sound effects and weapons. I mean, it's not only good material, but it's material I could not have gotten anywhere else.
But the thing that is the most popular in my mind is the dings and the buzzer.
Yes.
So for those of you who haven't watched or listened to the show, when the rules come out and the rules get wrong, there's a sound.
Yep.
And it dings out. Was that something that you did for yourself?
Or I had to.
Yeah.
I get the rules wrong so much.
You do.
I was struggling. I do. I was struggling from the turning over from the 3.5 to the 5.0, so I'm learning as we're going along. And I realized very early on in the first edit, I needed a method to inform the audience if I got something wrong, especially if I get it wrong and we didn't correct it. Because I have to, so I had to and there's a couple of times. Most of the time we come right around, or they correct me, which is usually the case, as my players will correct me on it. But we needed a way to tell the audience what was right and what was wrong. And then we also used the ding. If someone just says something that's like just spot on, we'll give them a ding as well.
Yeah. I love that stuff.
That's fun.
It feels so good to hear it, especially when you say roll will.
Right, exactly.
Because it's always no.
You'd be surprised how many people think we're doing that live.
You know?
Like there's there's a guy off to my side who just knows the rules so well they can just ding everything right away.
So as I said, you're approaching the end of season 1.
Correct.
Big plans for the finale.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Big plan. One that I've already let out of the bag, which is Doro is going to leave our temporal universe during the break.
Right. You mentioned this in another interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll put a link down in the crotch for that interview. That's what we call the little comment section underneath of YouTube, where the info is the crotch.
Perfect.
So how long of a break are you going to take between
2 months.
Godsfall 1 and 2? 2 months.
2 months. I need 2 months to write, and I need 2 months to work on the world book, which I've got to get done.
So thank you for leading into that. I was going to ask about, so you've posted some pages at godsfall.com about the world book that you're building for the universe. Tell us a little bit more about where that is and how it's coming along.
I get to combine all my abilities in this one, except for writing, which I don't have. So I'm just like, I'm getting better at that. But the graphic design I've been doing for a while, layout, because I work for 2 major LGBT news papers. So I've got all of the technical skills I need to make this happen. The desire to make it happen came from, I honestly had no plans on doing one, but so many people during this podcast have come to us and said, is there a way that we can play in the world too? Can we get a book? Can we get official rules? Can you give us the stats on, all of these? So instead of just giving it to people piecemeal, I thought, well, screw it. I'll just get it done in a book. I know some artists that are really talented. One of them's already Francisco Manzo, who's already been doing those character sketches you'll see online. So he'll do all the character sketches, and I got one person to do the cover and an inside page, a big full color page of each of the characters in like their highest god moments. So Phryne with all the color swirls around her. So there'll be like a big celebratory page of each one of them, and then one last person to do landscapes. So it should be thematically consistent, and it should be about 200 pages, and it'll be free because we're giving away free to everyone. So it'll be neat. We're going to do a Kickstarter to pay for the artists. Otherwise than that, it'll be totally free.
Do you have a Kickstarter link yet?
Not yet. No, we haven't. I'm going to get the book. What I'm going to do is I'm going to finish the book, and I'm going to put the book up so they can preview it, right? Without any of the art. So there'll just be holes where all the art will go. And like if you get to X level, all the character portraits are dropping. If we get here, we'll get the cover. If we get here,
Fantastic.
The book will come out no matter what.
And will this be just a downloadable book or a print-on-demand option?
It'll be available as a PDF in 2 formats. So there'll be a PDF you could download and just have it nice and laid out. And then there'll be a print-ready PDF, which you can then take to any of the places you can print the book off online and do it yourself. We're not going to do any of it through us because there's basically content in it that is in a gray area. That's for 3.5 they had open source. We could use all the core stuff and go.
But 5th edition's still under...
Not there yet.
Yeah.
And because it's Hasbro and because of a bunch of other things. And because we're not really looking to make any money off it. We just want to get it out there. So I'm just going to give it away free, downloadable. Whatever else anyone does as far as printing it off is completely up to them. Yeah.
Let me kind of shift gears just a little bit. I want to talk about some of the technical stuff. So Godsfall is a podcast, right? It's an audio program.
Yes.
Did you always want it to be an audio podcast, or did you just want to build a game first, or?
The game was. I've been writing the game for about. Well, I've been loosely playing with it for 3 years. I've been writing it hardcore for 9 months, right? And once I began listening to podcasts and the second I got frustrated with the editing, I was like, I'm making one. That was it. That was when I knew I wanted to do one myself. It was going to be proof of concept to see if you could take a live game that lasts 5 to 6 hours, chop it down to 1, and build a real story out of it.
Right.
And I've told people that the game is the rough draft. The podcast is the first edit. I mean, I will go in and redo voiceovers. I will cut huge sections out, and I will. It's the same story,
but you
it's
don't miss
different.
a beat in the story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm not taking away major elements. I'm just taking away the detritus around the edges.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was going to kind of ask a little bit to that long business. So some other podcasts do like live streaming. I know you as a video person, right?
Correct.
So some other podcasts do live streaming, like on Twitch or other things. You know, is that ever crossed your mind as a video person to do a live stream?
I mean, and people have asked for it a lot. They're like, we really, because people really like the. There's is it Critical Role with Matt Mercer?
I'm not sure.
I'm pretty sure that's one that has all the cameras, and they literally have like a bank on here and a bank on here, and then one on the DM, and there's an overshot camera, and there's a guy switching live on the website in between all of them, which is great. You know,
that's a lot of work.
It's also like they have a tightly edited thing.
Yeah.
Like they know what they're doing. They know there can't be a lot of side table talk. They have them all lined up, and they are going through it because they don't have the time to really cut away, right? We don't do that.
Right.
We play for 6 hours. We break to go outside. We stop for pizza for half an hour, and then I chop it all
the
back.
joking in between.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. It would be good. They're 4 very interesting people, but that's not what we do, and it'd be such a huge break from what we do now. We produce a radio journal, basically,
right?
And that's the goal.
It plays like a radio drama, like you would hear on BBC.
That's the idea. Kind of. If they had shotgun mics loose in a
true.
in someone's apartment, maybe older BBC.
True.
Yeah. But we are working on getting us all lav mic'd. So hopefully in season 2, the audio quality is going to jump up permanently.
Higher production. Awesome. And so I know that you have a Patreon account.
Yes.
So I'm going to put a link to the Godsfall Patreon down in the crotch.
Awesome.
And to the Godsfall website, godsfall.com. Aram, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our viewers?
Yes, it's the one thing I really like to actually share whenever I do anything like this, and that's that I dropped out of high school. People ask me like, oh, I can't do this, and oh, I can't do what you do, and oh, I can't do this. I mean, minus the laptop I used to edit it, I have $1,000 worth of equipment running at any time, and you can do it for half of that. On top of that, I'm self-taught with every single thing I've done. I dropped out in 11th grade, and everything I've learned since that has been because I've picked the thing up, and I've done it enough so that someone wanted to hire me for it, and that's it. So there's no barrier to creating anything that I've done. Anyone out there could do any part of it, maybe even make it sound better.
If they had the equipment.
No, not even that. They can have half the equipment. It's the talent going into it. Just, I mean, you can get a little XY mic, right?
Yeah.
And just have it in the room and gather everyone around that table for $200 bucks, and it'll sound good. It'll sound good, and it depends what you do with that audio. It's the same thing with cameras. People are like, oh, all I have is my iPhone. They're shooting entire movies on iPhone.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's not
we do
just
Men of the Den. Half of us do it on iPhones.
Then there's no reason not to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, Aram Vartian, thank you so much for being on our show. I really appreciate having you. If you want to learn more about the Godsfall podcast, you can visit them at godsfall.com.